quick example of some debugging. This is a comparison method. So what I've got here is I've got E1's quiz that he couldn't get working, and I've got Sophie's here, which was working. Now this is not an ideal situation because Sophie had only put 3 questions in, E1 had tried 4, and E1 couldn't get his to work. So that's got some problems in itself. One of the methods I used to start off with, let me go back up here before we start, is I would copy, you can see here I was looking at line 31 on this side, it says dot progress, and same here. So I can see that there is the same amount of lines. That's one way of checking. Okay. The only and what I did also to make sure there wasn't anything missing, if I know Sophie's is working, I was starting here and on Sophie's document and copying all the way down to here, copying and pasting it across over to E1's and replacing it, and then hitting save and then checking it. Okay, now there were little differences, like the title was called Java quiz project, whereas it was just my quiz. I wanted to make sure this link was working because that's important for part of the JavaScript, but that wasn't the problem. Okay, so I was heading down here and then I was checking. As I said, I keep following the line numbers. Were really handy, and then there were some key elements. So after we got past the formatting with the backgrounds, okay, I noticed that you can see here the background colors, the answer colors were different. The circle colors, okay, E1 hadn't changed his circle colors, they were default, but you can see here the tick and the cross for Sophie. She has changed those, which is good. E1, you need to change that. Alright, my quiz, coming down here. Alright, let's get down into the nuts and bolts of this. You can see here E1 had 4 quiz questions. Now, I'm going to check. E1, I noticed that on the original there was a comma at the end of every square bracket. I put this comma in here to see if that worked, and I'm just going to check yours now to see if that makes a difference. And no, it doesn't seem to, but it's good formatting to have a comma at the end of each one. No, it's not a comma. Alright, except for the last one, okay, but that once again wasn't the problem. Okay, I couldn't tell, so one thing I also did was, whereas Sophie had 4 questions and E1 had, Sophie had 3 and E1 had 4, so what I did was I clicked on this 4th question to see if that was causing a problem, and I went edit, edit, come down to comment, alright, and single line comment, and what that did was that deactivated that line. You can see it's gone all green. Now I'm using Notepad+. You can use comments and that on any of the other programs, including Dreamweaver. So once again, that didn't affect it. So I can also then go back to selecting on that and go edit, comment, and single line uncomment, which puts it back. Okay, so it didn't make any difference there. So I was still scratching my head, and I was getting a bit frustrated by this point. And I've got to admit, where I was probably frustrated was because I have asked continually the class to put comments in to tell me where they've made their changes, and I couldn't see any on Sophie or on E1's to say, here are my questions, or this is an extra question, or this is my 4th question. There was no comment put in there anywhere, E1, which would have made my debugging job easier. So let me just, alright, let me just put underneath here, alright, and I go edit. You can put the comment in first, single line comment here. This is my 4th question. That's pretty obvious, but that would have made my job easier to see where E1 knew what he was doing. Alright, and let's get down to where the problem was. So I kept copying and pasting, and then I noticed something different on around about that line 120. So I'm using these line numbers to reference where I was up to. And I saw over here on Sophie's that was working. This had an else current node classes service select answer. And randomly, E1 has put a backgrounds comment in there. Now I've commented this out, and as a result it works. But for some reason, E1 has put a comment background statement in there. Now E1 and everyone, you can't just put a formatting, a style command anywhere in the code anywhere. Okay, that's not appropriate. And as a result, that stopped all of E1's code from working because this section down here is a bit of JavaScript. Alright, and this JavaScript said, well, I don't know what you're talking about now, I'm going to stop working. So in this section here, E1 could have solved some problem by putting a comment underneath it and saying, here is my background color E1. And I could have gone down there and seen every one of E1's formatting attempts and try to take them out. So that saves a person lots and lots of time to debug. If you were paying a debugger to do this, they charge by the hour, and they can charge anything from $75 up to $175 an hour to debug your software, okay, or your script. Alright, so it's good money in debugging, so it's good to learn this skill, but also if you're the one making the mistakes and you've got to pay someone to do that, once again, that is a costly expense. It's a lot quicker if I'm the debugger and I'm coming down and checking all the parts that you've added. Alright, so also as far as assessment goes, if you've got an issue with a problem and you're not putting in a comment to say that you made a change here and I can't find it, and then I find out it is something that you've changed that you didn't put a comment in to tell me where you've changed something or what you thought it was going to do, that can not only cost you money, which it won't, but it'll cost you marks. Alright, and for you guys, marks are worth money, okay? Your marks show me that you are putting in all the correct things. So anyhow, so I thought I'd record that. Luckily for E1, I've decided that I'm not going to charge him a grade on this. It was a silly thing to put in there, but you're learning, and I can now send that one back to you. So I'm going to show this video to everyone, and I want you to make sure you watch it and pay attention to that. Good debugging. So copying and pasting from a working copy, comparing the original to yours is another way to do that, and that's what I've got here. Okay. So yeah, so make sure you're following along with the correct way to solve your own problems there, guys.